Meanwhile, in studio, we have a guest in studio to talk a little bit of stadium news and soccer news as well. Peter Marlette Jr., president of Buffalo Pro Soccer, joins us in studio. Peter, we've met. We had a chance to talk about all your what's going on. I know you've spoken down the hall with WBEN. It's your first time with us here. So, first off, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Pro Move coming in studio. Not many people come in studio, probably because of the time of day. We're on early in the morning.
Yeah, no, coming in, getting to actually see you guys, it just makes it a little better interaction.
Yeah, not bad at all. So happy to have you here. So for people wondering, who are you? Why are you here talking stadium soccer stuff, Buffalo Pro Soccer? This is a good chance to kind of get to know you and what's going on, because there have been a lot of stories, BEN, the newspaper, about a potential soccer stadium downtown. So let's start right at the beginning. Who you are, what you want to do for the listener out there that might be thinking Pro Soccer, FC Buffalo, how's it all tie in? Where do we begin?
Yeah, so I mean, it would begin. I'm from Buffalo. I grew up in Buffalo. Went away to college, played some college soccer, was an All-American in college, and played a couple years professionally after that. But pretty early on in my pro career, my pro soccer career, I saw what I was as a player, and it was fine, but it wasn't going to take me where I wanted to be. So, still had that passion for soccer and desire to stay in the game in whatever way I could. So stepped off the field and got into the business of sports back in about 2012, I believe it was. Moved home, worked for Ad Pro Sports for a while, and then spent some time over in Switzerland. I lived in Switzerland, Italy, and then came back and worked for FC Dallas of Major League Soccer. And then prior to this opportunity in Buffalo, I was general manager of the USL League One club in Omaha, Nebraska, Union Omaha, the 4 teams that I built there. So I managed both the sporting operation and the business operation there. And the 4 teams I built, we won 3 regular season championships, 2 playoff championships, and we're financially a very successful club as well. And that's what led to this opportunity in Buffalo. The league knew I was from Buffalo, and I say the league, I mean the CEO and the executives at the league knew I was from Buffalo, desperately wanted a team in Buffalo, and that's them. Of course, I did too, but they're the ones that really felt it was a perfect market. And in my 3rd season at Omaha, they approached me with the opportunity to come home and start building this. So it's USL Championship is the league, which is the 2nd division of professional soccer in the U.S., sitting right under Major League Soccer. Unlike American professional sports or traditional American professional sports, it's not AAA, it's not AHL, it's not a farm league. The players are completely independent. The clubs are completely independently operated. Player contracts are held by us. So it's a really high quality on-field product.
And in terms of the current state of where everything sits with that league and tournaments, like one thing if you're not a soccer fan, like you have the U.S. Open Cup, right? Like there are crossovers sometimes with MLS.
Yeah, the U.S. Open Cup, and this tournament exists in every country in the world, but here It's the U.S. Open Cup. But the Open Tournament, where amateur teams can qualify for it, but every level of the pros enter into this tournament every year. And yeah, it's luck of the draw who you get paired up against. I will say in Omaha, in 2022, we went to Soldier Field to play Chicago Fire of Major League Soccer and beat them. And standing down on Soldier Field and looking up after just beating the team that calls that home was a pretty cool experience. We then went to Minnesota United, another Major League Soccer team, beat them, and ended up losing in the quarterfinal in Sporting Kansas City in front of sold-out crowd of 24,000 people there. So U.S. Open Cup, and again, that was just draw, right? You have to win the games to move on to the next round. You could get paired up with anybody, though. And we were unlucky, 50-50 shot of whether you host or have to go on the road. And we just lost those coin flips, so I had to go on the road every time. But there's a very real opportunity to host, an MLS team at any point.
I think a lot of people know MLS, the success of MLS in the U.S., the growth of professional soccer. From a USL standpoint, you said the one league below. What does that look like around the rest of the country? What markets are involved, the stadiums, the attendance? What is the product that's USL?
Yeah, so USL had 24 teams in the league last year. It is completely national, divided into an Eastern and Western Conference. It's 25 this year with the addition of a team in Lexington, Kentucky, who just built a brand new 7,500 seat stadium there, which is beautiful. So immediately surrounding us, the teams that would be our closest regional rivals would be Detroit, Pittsburgh, Hartford, Providence, Pawtucket, and Brooklyn has an expansion team coming in 2026 as well. But it is completely national.
And games, this league, you said 24 last year. Are they expanding to a bigger number? Is there a goal that USL wants?
Yeah, so they don't have a publicly stated goal, but they have been very public about their desire. So USL operates right now USL Championship and USL League One. Championship is the league that we have the rights to here in Buffalo. That's the second division, as I said. League One is the third division. And then there's League Two, which is what FC Buffalo currently plays in, which is the elite level of amateur soccer in the U.S. USL also announced yesterday that they would be pursuing a league in Division One status, so same level as MLS. And that's all to say they've been very publicly considering and pushing towards promotion and relegation here in the U.S., and I believe that this announcement yesterday is a pretty positive step in that direction.
Right, that's not something we see here, owners with, of course, like every once in a while they could suggest it, like, oh, the NFL, the NHL should have this. Like, that'll never happen. It's got to start kind of at an organic level for growing leagues that are not fully established. To get down into what's happening here and what your goals are to bring a team here and to make it happen, stadium is a big part of it. You mentioned Lexington builds a brand new 7,500-seat stadium. What's the vision for that here right now?
Yeah, so we have been for probably the past 9 months. So I've been back in town doing this since January 1st of last year. So it's been 13 plus months now. The first 3 months of that were securing the seed funding, making sure the business model and the financials really did make sense. The league certainly said they did, but we had to verify everything. And then going out and raising some capital to get us to this point that we're at today. So about the last 9 months or so have been purely dedicated to locating the ideal stadium site and talking to architects and developers and all the other various stakeholders that are involved in something like that. And we've gotten to a very advanced point there.
And 3 sites?
3 sites.
3
correct.
sites.
Yep.
The one that's getting, I think, the most traction, I think, publicly is the one that's downtown.
Yep.
So what is the site and what's the vision there?
Yeah, so that site is it's the Cobblestone District, so it is the parking lot, and Sabres fans will know exactly where this is. It's the parking lot between the HSBC atrium and the Buffalo News building, right across the street from the arena. That one is getting the most public traction because it is by multiples the most expensive of the options, and as such, if we're going to go there, we're going to require public funding, and we've requested that gap to be made up by the state. That is why that's the most public one.
Okay.
The other two and because it's a great site. I mean, it would create a stadium district. You've got the arena, you've got the ballpark, you've got the casino right there, your Harbor Center.
Yep.
It's a great site also. But the reason that one is getting the coverage and the other two are not is because that's the public one right now.
Right.
Yeah. The other two, I will say, are in the city of Buffalo and are also in great locations. I hired a firm called CSL International, who some Bills fans may know because they did some market studies on the Bills' new stadium, but they're a national firm that does economic impact analysis and market feasibility studies for pro sports stadiums. Had them come in, and they assessed you mentioned that there are 3 finalist sites. They assessed all 3 of these sites, and they all absolutely work. If you're talking about impact on the people of Buffalo and on the city of Buffalo, that very public site does have the greatest impact. But it works, and it's good at any of them.
How much of that is just a lot of it's just what's right around it, right already, like the current infrastructure?
That's exactly right. And then also what's right around it, as in the current just desert of parking lots or whatever you want to call it. So yes, there's great infrastructure. There's a metro rail going right there, but it's also a tremendously underdeveloped area compared to the space that's there.
Right. Peter Marlette Jr. of president of Buffalo Pro Soccer in studio with us to talk about this stadium idea and the USL. When it comes to the league and the stadium, when it's finally fully built, I don't know if there are numbers that you could just rattle off about this. I'm a dad with 2 kids. Is what USL looks for here a sporting event that's high level, that is affordable, that is, the growing economic landscape of the NFL and NHL and whatever? You're trying to find a little bit of a middle ground that you can go see a live sporting event, which people, of course, love to attend, but it's just a different level of economic investment from just every consumer that's going to go.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And USL fills that gap in their markets really nicely. But we have based our pro forma and all our financial modeling around an average ticket price of $34 and some change. Now that will include, as part of that, the safe standing area, the get in the door ticket, which will all in hover right around $15. So, anybody can come in. It needs to be accessible financially to everybody. But I will say that CSL survey that I mentioned earlier, which we got thousands of responses from Western New Yorkers here, did indicate that some people want an elevated experience and want the suites and want sideline seats, field level seats, stuff like that. And, there will be higher amenity, higher price tickets in the stadium, but anybody who wants to come in, bring a family, is going to be able to do so without blowing up their budget for the week.
You said in the league it's what? Did you say average like 7,500 for
the stadium size? The stadium size, it varies, but okay. Yes, yeah.
But anyways, what would you do? Is it too early to know, like, even like ballpark, like what size level we're talking?
No, so we're gonna be between 7,500 and 10,000 to start, no matter what site we end up at. But I will say, all the conversations from day one with the developers and any architects were that is where we're going to start, but we want to build in plans to expand this because we believe that the market can actually support bigger than that. We just need to start a little more reasonably.
Is the market, being able to sustain more, like, is that all the way up to the league level? Like when you mention, like, those that feel like it can work here, is that how much of that is based on, like, just seeing, like, what, like, Bills tailgates are like and just, like, the overall sports atmosphere of the city?
I mean, that's absolutely massive. You've got to look at the demographic breakdowns of markets in USL that work. You're just talking population, you're talking average income, you're stuff like that. And Buffalo matches up really, really nicely and even favorably to a lot of the successful USL markets. But then you got to look beyond that into the sports culture, and everybody recognizes Buffalo's the best pro sports town in the country. I mean, you look at the Bills, even the Sabres, despite this drought, I still go to games. I still love it, and that exists in Buffalo, and it's not everywhere in the country.
Peter Marlette, president of Buffalo Soccer. When's the season? Downtown, outdoors? What is the time frame year to year, start to end of year?
Would there be like timing of games too? Like how often would it be if the stadium was in the site we're talking about? Where like I'm assuming you would work with like not crossing over at the same time as a Sabres game. It might be tough. I don't know.
No, you know what? There's very little overlap in the seasons anyways, especially with the Sabres playing a shorter season than we would like. But no, the USL season starts in middle of March and regular season ends in October, and then playoffs go for a few weeks in November. So, it's mostly spring, summer, fall, and doesn't have a ton of overlap. And that when you're talking about cadence of games, it's 34 regular season games. Then you've got 17 home. Then you've got Open Cup built in there. Then you've got playoffs built in there, which I fully expect we'll be playing in every year. And that's going to be the case. So you look for Saturday night home games. That's your ideal in the warm weather months at least. And at any of the three sites, we're talking about Cobblestone, but the other two are very close to there, honestly. So that's going to be the case at any of those sites.
With regard to FC Buffalo, I saw a partnership with the youth academy. We've of course know Nick Mendola. You know him well as well. We've had discussions about FC Buffalo, the role that's had in this market. How do these two entities coexist? Are they sister brother franchise? How does that whole umbrella happen if there is a relationship?
Yeah, well, there's definitely a relationship, and I mean, it started. I played for FC Buffalo when I was in college. Maybe I don't know. 16. Well, they started 15 years ago, so it must have been in year one, I guess. So I've known Nick for a very long time. Like I said, played for FC Buffalo and its NPSL predecessors before that. But this agreement with FC Buffalo to bring their FC Buffalo youth programming under the Buffalo Pro Soccer umbrella is something that Nick and I had been talking about for a while, and is something that I'm thrilled to see happen. They've laid a really good foundation, but we have access to more resources. We're talking financial resources. We're talking coaching. We're talking connections throughout the soccer world, soccer nation. And this is going to give those youth players, those top young players in the city and in Western New York and Southern Ontario, a direct path to the pro game, which has never existed in Buffalo before.
Is there a timeline in your mind right now that feels realistic for all of this to start coming together?
Yeah, well, for the pro team, and I
that's
talked.
what I meant.
Yeah, I figured. I talked to Justin Papadakis, who's the CEO of USL, yesterday, and gave him a very positive update. We're March of 26. I'm fully expecting us to be playing in a new stadium.
In March of 26.
Looking at pictures of this Lexington Stadium, the one that just got built, which 7,500 seat stadium. It's nice. Does the job, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Listen, it's. We certainly don't want to go smaller than that because this market is bigger than that. We can support more than that, and we know that without having to prove concept somewhere. But building it in a way that is manageable from day one and manageable from a cost standpoint, and then allowing it to grow as the market proves necessary, that makes the most sense. So, we may be bigger than that, but we're going to be between 7,500 and 10,000, depending on the site that we end up at. Next
thing, you were just mentioning timeline March 2026. What's the next thing for us to keep an eye on? What happens from here?
Well, I mean, in the immediate future, we're going to be selecting a site and making that announcement. A modular stadium is what we're going to be building here. And for those that aren't familiar with modular construction, it is very similar to traditional construction in that, electricians, the construction managers, the people working on it will build it very much the same way they do anything else. The difference is it is a prefabricated stadium that is built elsewhere.
But put together like a puzzle?
Exactly, pretty much.
Okay. Didn't Miami's MLS stadium do this?
They play in a modular stadium, and it's spectacular. Yeah. It's unbelievable. Yeah. The reason that I'm so confident in that March of 20, the season starts, the 26th season starts probably 13 months from today, it's very close, is because of the modular capabilities. These stadiums can go up in a matter of months once the site is prepped. And every day I'm having conversations with local developers, local construction managers, and making sure that we can meet that timeline, and we should be able to.
Well, if you need anything from me, one thing I do professionally is tell professional sports organizations when they have a bad team name, like the Utah Yeti or the Seattle Kraken. Whatever you decide on, colors and all that, whatever.
Listen, we'll run it by you because we're going to need buy-in. So.
I got to be honest. I'm self-reporting. I'm just a hater on so many new names. So maybe
we've got to avoid that.
Maybe I'm not the best for that.
Yeah, all right.
How many of the USL teams are team names versus just whatever FC?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think USL. I don't know the exact breakdown, but I would bet that it's about 60% team names and then 40% traditional.
Looking at Charleston Battery.
That's
a cool one.
Exactly. There's right.
But a lot of FCs, a Legion mixed in here, and
I see a Tampa Bay Rowdies in here though. They're mixed in.
Yeah, so Charleston and Tampa, those are kind of original clubs. Charleston makes an argument. well, since the Rochester Rhinos folded, to be the oldest, longest-running professional soccer team in the U.S. So you'll see there was a trend in American pro soccer, maybe within the past 5-10 years to try to go emulate the European naming structure,
Right.
and I think we're almost getting out of that a little now. It was a phase, I think.
There's a lot of that. I mean, it's happening. It's crossing over. Utah Hockey Club still exists, and they might stick with it.
They might stay.
And the Washington Football Club almost stuck with it instead of
Yep.
going to Commanders. So, Peter, thanks for coming in and the update, and best of luck moving forward.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
President of Buffalo Pro Soccer, Peter Marlette Jr. here with us in studio. And there's an article at WBEN's website. I'll tweet out. Brayton Wilson had an update on this and an interview also with you and Nick talking about that partnership with FC Buffalo. So best of luck, and I'm sure we'll talk in the future.
Yeah, looking forward to it.